Hello, everybody. Welcome into the cycle, part 2 of the week. I'm Ryan Wormeli, joined by Mike Maher. Maher, it is August 1st as of the day we are recording this, which means we are really into the stretch run here of, fantasy playoffs, trying to get over the top in roto leagues. There are just 2 months left in the season. So we're past the trade deadline in a lot of leagues. We're not going to be doing buys and sells like we usually do. We're going to loop together our parts 2 and 3 that we've been doing all year long and just kind of give you some waivers pickups that we're interested in, coupled with some pitching streamers on this episode, and then wrapping, of course, as always, with our 2-start pitcher competition. We'll start right off with the waivers central. I just completely had a brain fart, and it's the last baseball show I'm doing of the year, and I totally forgot to add I thought I did. I 100% was like, cool, I'm done with the outline. Send it over to Maher. He can add his names. And I realized as we're sitting down to do this show that I never actually added in my favorite hitter and pitcher of the week. So we'll largely let you carry this. I will say my favorite pitcher would have been the same one that you picked. So That's fine. We'll just say that we both liked that guy enough that we both would have picked him. And I'll, just for the sake of throwing out a hitter, I don't know that I really want to go be picking him up because he has struggled a lot. Coby Mayo has been hitting the ball a lot harder.
I was going to ask if that's what you were going to say, and I was just thinking while you're talking.
Listen, it's my last. I can only be who I am. I might as well end with an Oriole as my recommendation. He has been actually hitting the crap out of the ball, and they traded away Ramon Urias to Houston. So there are potentially regular at-bats maybe coming for him. And it's something that I've been wanting them to do for a while, but even aside from the fact that there's now this opening theoretically with Urias gone, just kind of more room in the infield for it, they also are officially sellers, right? They are no longer trying to win this season. So the only goal should be getting at-bats for guys. He's had enough to feel like maybe he is starting to get more comfortable. If you also start giving him now Ryan Mountcastle's coming back, which could impact things with Mayo playing mostly first base at this point. But I would keep an eye on him. Maybe he's more of a watch list guy than a go pick him up guy. If you're in a really deep league, I would pick him up. If you're in a shallower league, you probably don't need to. But I would keep an eye on him because he had a ton of pedigree as a hitter, and it would certainly not be the first time we saw a high-level hitter struggle early and then kind of things click a couple months in. So given that he's going to get a lot of more opportunity in the last 2 months here, I would be keeping a close eye on him.
Yeah, I mean, he has struggled a lot when he's come up, but at some point you got to give him run time and see if he can play. And the previous Orioles regime was not willing to do that, and maybe this regime is a little bit more willing to do that, because when he came up last year, it was pretty bad, and he struck out almost 50% of the time, and it was pretty ugly. But also small sample size. He had 2 weeks worth of games and he wasn't playing every day, and so it kind of seems like you have now a month plus left of the season. Just run him out there every day and see what happens. You have nothing to lose and everything to gain. And, like you said, there's power potential there, and see what happens.
It's the same thing. I want him to call up Dylan Beavers, who's crushing it, and AAA. I want him to call up Sammy Basayo, who is top 10 prospect in baseball. Just let these guys either take their lumps or adjust quickly and see that you have something legit here. So, yeah, Mayo's a good example of that. All right, let's go to your favorite hitter.
So I was looking at the trade deadline, and it felt like it was one of the busier trade deadlines that I can ever remember. But also it felt like a lot of the names moved were pitchers and specifically relievers, and there weren't a lot of major hitters moved, and it was a lot of platoon guys and depth guys. Jesús Sánchez is someone who has a decent ceiling, and he went from the Marlins to the Astros, and it sounds like he might actually bat pretty high in that lineup, as high as batting second against righties, which could be huge if the Astros can kind of unlock something with him, because he's been inconsistent. He hits the ball really hard, and it's clear that the Astros saw something in him. And as we were just talking about in the previous video about prospects going, not that he's a prospect, but prospects going to different teams that have, kind of a track record of developing players, the Astros do have that. And so I'm interested to see if the Astros can get something out of Jesús Sánchez. And if he doesn't, you pick him up and you drop him. But there's a possibility that this is a pretty decent impact bat for you in fantasy, just because of the team he's going to and where he's potentially going to hit in the lineup. Even though there are some platoon possibilities there, he might not play against lefties. But if he's going to bat second in that lineup against righties, or even somewhere fairly high in that lineup against righties, I'm interested in seeing what happens.
Yeah, I like this one. I don't have a lot to add. I think you had a good case, and I'm in agreement. Let's go to the pitchers, where, like I said, I didn't write down a name. I would have picked the same name you did. So since you're the one who actually wrote it down, I'll let you make the case.
Yeah, we talked about him a little bit in the previous video. Randy Rodríguez, it sure seems like he's going to step in and be the closer for the Giants. He's been really good this year. He's striking out, I think his strikeout rate is like over 35%. And fastball hovering over 97 miles an hour, and just looks really, really good, and seems like he's going to be the closer in San Francisco. And they are not going to be a great team, but they're not going to be probably terrible either. And so he should get a decent amount of closing opportunities. Now, Ryan Walker is also there, but I think they want to give Randy Rodríguez this job and see what happens for the rest of the season.
I talked about Randy Rodríguez earlier in the year on this as like a speculative ad, as a guy who could step into the closer role at some point. He's just been awesome this year. I read these stats in part one, but in case you missed it, 62 strikeouts in 45 innings, 62 strikeouts compared to just 9 walks, a 1.20 ERA, a 0.84 whip. He's been just awesome. And those are with a very poor most recent outing where he gave up a couple runs in an inning and a third. So, those numbers looked even better prior to his last time out. He's just been really locked down, like, electric guy this year, and Duvall's gone. So if he gets the opportunity to be the closer going forward, there is a chance this is a tier 1 closer. Now he's got to prove it, because I tend to feel like we overrate the pressure of the ninth for closers and stuff like that. Some guys it does impact though. So like you do want to see it first, maybe before putting him in your starting lineup. But I wouldn't wait to see it before picking him up. Like, if he's available, I would get him up, because there is a chance this is an elite guy, high strikeout, low whip, guy getting save opportunities. There's a chance that's the case. And if that is the case, like, he's going to be a must-start closer. So I would at the very least pick him up, maybe keep him on your bench till we kind of see him for a couple outings, or told that he's like the surefire, definitive, no-doubt closer. But I want Randy Rodríguez on as many rosters as I can get him.
Where would you put him in your closer rankings the rest of the year, as I'm updating my rankings in real time?
If we are guaranteeing that he's the closer.
Mm-hmm.
Let me pull up the consensus rankings and make sure I'm not overlooking anybody. I think I'd probably have him. So if you look at the consensus rankings for rest of season, it currently goes Hader, Munoz, Miller, Diaz, Duran. I was about to say Mizorowski. He's listed here because he's technically both, but obviously.
Yeah, there's a lot of sparps in there.
Yeah. Cade Smith is 7th. Devin Williams is 8th. I feel like if you told me he is definitely the closer and the role is not too big for him, that's not to say he's going to be perfect, right? But just like in general, like he's not going to completely fall apart. But it's like, yeah, this is the closer, and he will kind of continue doing what he's done in this role. I'd probably have him like 7th.
I just moved him to 7. I just moved him to 7.
Like, I think that's the right spot, assuming he doesn't completely fall apart with the responsibility and that they actually give it to him. And I think that probably does sound aggressive to a lot of people, and maybe it is, but I really feel that strongly about it. Like those kind of first half dozen or so names, I think are kind of unassailable. I would want to take a swing on Rodríguez over a lot of the names lower than him.
Yeah, well, one thing we probably should have talked more about in the first video with Mason Miller is he going to be the closer in San Diego? Because
I almost brought that up, and then
we skipped right over that part.
But I did almost bring that up. The reason I didn't bring it up, because it did cross my mind, is there's no way they gave up the number 3 prospect in baseball for a guy who's not even going to close for them, right? Like there's just no way, right?
I don't know. I don't know if they want to use him as like a multi-inning weapon and then move him to a starter next year. I don't know. No one knows what AJ Preller is thinking, but Suarez has been pretty good this year, so it's hard to just remove him from the job. But like I said, you can't give up like one of the prospects in baseball and not have him as closer. But I was just looking at that for my rankings. So I was like, I have to move him down because I don't even know if he's going to be the closer.
Yeah. All right, let's get to your deep league targets.
So real quick, deep league targets, and a lot of this I was looking at a lot of this as like trade deadline fallout, because there's, like I said, there were not a ton of like huge names moved. We didn't get like Joe Ryan moved, or Sandy Alcantara, or Edward Cabrera, or Dylan Cease, but there were a lot of decent level players moved who either they are now becoming someone worth rostering in deep leagues, or more often than not, who they left behind is now worth rostering in deep leagues. So Jack Perkins is one for the A's. It sounds like he is a candidate to start or a candidate to close. And if you pick him up, you can be the one to find out. And so we're not exactly sure. A lot of this we're gonna have to see how the next week goes and see if these guys are worth rostering. But Jack Perkins is someone for the A's who's worth a speculative pickup in deep leagues. Carlos Correa, we talked about in our previous video, going back to the Astros, should see a little bit of an uptick. Low ceiling, high floor, I would guess, for him. But like we said, he's expected to start at third base, should gain third base eligibility. And I can tell you, as someone in some deep leagues, third base, you could really use the help there. Cole Sands, potential closer in Minnesota. There were a lot of relievers moved who left closing situations behind that are either going to be committees or wait for someone to take the job. Cole Sands is the candidate in Minnesota. Jose Ferrer, I think you have to roll the R there. The CBS guys were rolling the R this morning, but Jose Ferrer for the Nationals, since Kyle Finnegan is gone. Another deep league guy. Harrison Bader, we talked about in the previous video. He's going to start in center field for the Phillies. Griffin Jax is only a deep league candidate because he's not expected to be the closer for the Rays, but he certainly could close some game for the Rays or could end up taking that job if Fairbanks struggles. Dennis Santana, expected to be the closer for the Pirates. So not exactly a great team, but we've seen closers on bad teams get a lot of saves, and in Roto, every save matters. JoJo Romero is a potential closer for the Cardinals. We don't know, but it seems like he's the most likely candidate for now. Or, he could be he's a lefty, so you never know what they're going to do with lefties. JP Sears, now with the Padres, interesting starting pitcher candidate. And then Alan Rodin is someone who could see some more time here.
If you're struggling with lineup decisions, our lineup assistant recommends optimal lineup suggestions to maximize your team's performance each day or week. Just sync your league for tailored guidance based on your roster and league settings. Download the Fantasy Baseball My Playbook app or visit fantasypros.com/MLB MyPlaybook to set your winning lineup today. All right, Mayor, let's run through our pitching streamers for the upcoming week. Then we'll do our two-start pitcher competition. Who are you streaming?
Sure. So on Monday, also, I forgot to mention that Alan Rodin was traded from the Blue Jays to the Twins. That's why he could be potential. He was, I believe, in the minor leagues. Oh, no, he was on the roster. But he could and should get some playing time with the Twins. So Monday, going to pitching streamers, we'll go to the FantasyPros starting pitcher streaming tool. I already wrote the names down. So Monday was kind of a weird day. I wrote it as a stay away with the possibility that if Casey Mize is available, he's probably not available in your league if it's very active because his roster percentage is right around 50%. And in CBS, it's probably higher than that. But if he is available, he is going to face an absolute ghost of a Twins lineup. Because if you paid attention to the trade deadline, the Twins cleared house and there's nobody left and Buxton is hurt. And so Casey Mize is just going to be going up against the Quad A lineup.
Are the Twins now the most desirable team to stream pitchers against?
I think TBD, but they're probably, as of right now, according to the tool, they're not in the top 5, but I think that's going to change. Assuming Buxton stays hurt, Correa's gone, it's not a good lineup. I saw Joe Arrico, I forget exactly what he tweeted out, but it was essentially the equivalent of this lineup is an abomination. Yeah, it's not a good lineup. So Monday, I didn't really see a lot of other options of guys who are, one, available and two, have good matchups. Sean Manaea is still not widely rostered. I imagine if you have any kind of sharp league, Sean Manaea is rostered by now. But if he's not, his consensus roster percentage is still less than 50%. I imagine ESPN's doing some heavy lifting on those numbers. But he has the Guardians, and he has the best matchup. So he's probably pretty, he would be the top option if he's available, but I'm assuming he's not, and it's likely Casey Mize is not either. So Monday, if not those two, I would stay away from Monday. Tuesday, I have Brian Bello, whose roster numbers are still shockingly low. Consensus roster percentage of 26%. Again, ESPN's probably dragging that down, but still kind of shocked that as well as he's been pitching lately, he is still available. He gets the Royals, who are a pretty good team, but not a great lineup. They're considered a top 5 offense to stream against. And the other name I mentioned here is Mike Soroka, who we didn't mention as part of the trade, our trade updates, but he was traded to the Cubs, and he gets the Athletics. So not like a great matchup, but I am intrigued what Soroka could do with the Cubs, with their kind of pitching program, especially because he was the only starter they acquired, and everyone expected them to acquire a bigger name starter like Mackenzie Gore, but they got Mike Soroka. And I'll mention him again at the end, but one of the things is, I like to mention when we're talking about these streamers, is if you're setting a lineup for the week and you're concerned about volume, he is a 2-star pitcher. So I have him on Tuesday for his matchup against the Athletics, and then also on Sunday for a matchup against the Giants. So he's not a really high strikeout pitcher right now, although he's been doing a little bit better this year, but he should have 2 starts this week. Wednesday, I have Jeffrey Springs, who's had a very up and down year, but has been better after a rough start. He gets the Nationals, also not a great lineup. And he's been pitching better of late. So Wednesday, Jeffrey Springs. Thursday is a very small slate as usual. I have that as a stay away. The top option on the tool is Brady Singer against the Pirates. And even with that matchup, I don't really want to mess around with Brady Singer and his numbers. And after that, it's Brady Singer, Jacob Lopez, Shane Smith, Mitchell Parker, Bryce Elder. I don't really want to mess with any of those. Bryce Elder gets the Marlins, but Bryce Elder, not worth the upside of what he could potentially do to you in Roto. And then Friday, I like 2 options on Friday. So a lot of times when I look at these names, I wish I could take a guy, maybe if you have the roster spots and you want to stream no one on Thursday, you'd stream 2 guys on Friday. That's what I would do. I would stream Chase Burns against the Pirates, and Chase Burns is also, his roster numbers are still pretty low, probably because of that blow up, but also he's been pretty good. High strikeout numbers. He's been better. He gets the Pirates, and then Noah Cameron is having a really solid season. Gets that Twins lineup again. So I'm targeting the Twins, and I really like both those pitchers. I like, they're very different pitchers, but I like the strikeout upside of Burns, and I think Noah Cameron has a pretty high floor. And then on Saturday, JP Sears against your Baltimore Orioles in what should be his first start with the Padres. And then Sunday, I already mentioned Mike Soroka against the Giants.
Yeah, I think a lot of these are good cases. Casey Mize, I know he has had a couple of bad starts in a row, but that Twins lineup is just too appealing. Noah Cameron, also getting the Twins, like you mentioned, but just consistently being very good. He hasn't. I don't know if we think at this point that it's going to fall apart at some point. This is the type of pitcher that has done well with the Royals. We talked about that when he kind of first came up and started doing well, but just continues to be really successful. Even if you just look at the last 4 starts, he's 3-0. He went 5 innings, 6 innings, 6 2/3, and 7 innings. He went 6 strikeouts, 7 strikeouts, 8 strikeouts, 7 strikeouts. He went 0 earned runs, 4 earned runs, 0 and 2. He's just regularly very good. So I like that call a lot. If he's at this point, borderline should just be rostered more. But if you're in a league where he is streamable, absolutely this week, that's probably my favorite one, honestly.
Sweet.
All right, 2-start pitcher competition. I wasn't sure how to do week 15. My guy made 2 starts, and he got 24.9 fantasy points. Your guy did not make 2 starts. I don't recall what we said we would do because there was some confusion coming out of the All-Star break. I don't know what we said we were going to do.
You told me if he didn't make 2 starts, I get the 1, and whatever he did.
Okay. Well, I forget. What did he do in the 1? I forgot to.
Hopefully he hit 25 points.
Let me look it up real quick. Because you're right. Now that you say that, I do remember that. Let's see. He did
25 points. 25 points. 25 points. 25 points.
So what date would this have been? The 25th must have been. Yeah. Yeah.
25th for 25 points.
He had 14.9 points.
Just missed it.
His start 2 days ago, if that counted towards it, which it does not, was 15 points. So his 2 starts were combined good. They were just in the wrong weeks.
Lovely.
So that'll be a win for Nick Pavetta and your boy Worm. Not the proudest win I've ever had, but I'll take it. It does put me in the lead, which means if I lose, I can fully blame Kelly because I am handing her a Worm lead. It's 7-6-1. And as I always remind you,
there's still 2 left. So we still have Christopher Sanchez versus Dylan Cease coming up, and then
true.
this matchup.
I'm handing her the lead, but with 2 decisions still pending. So you're right. That's a fair point. As of right now, though, including the home run derby result, it is 7-6-1 with Worm leading. We are awaiting the results of Dylan Cease versus Christopher Sanchez for this current week. I did pick Coby Mayo here. Part of this is because some of the names I would have considered were not available to me because I had already used them. Again, he's had some bad starts in a row. I am not ignoring that, or my head is not in the sand here. But look at his matchups. It's the Twins and the Angels. That feels pretty good, especially with what the Twins just did at the trade deadline. So, in our league scoring format, his last 3 starts have all been in the negative. So this could actually really backfire.
I hope it does.
It was 3 innings, 6 earned runs, 4 innings, 4 earned runs, 1 2/3 innings, 1 earned run in the last 3 games. And 2 of those games ended, he got the loss. So this is counting on him being different than he has been the last couple of weeks. This is strictly a play on, boy, you hardly can get a better couple matchups than Twins and Angels.
Yeah, so I like that. It's a bold move, but also it's a rough week because I didn't write a name in the sheet because I have a couple I was choosing between.
Well, it's a rough week, and some of the top options were not available to me, so it was even rougher for me.
Yeah. But even just scrolling through, some teams don't even have a 2-star pitcher lined up just because of they have 6 games and they've kind of gone to a 6-man rotation, or they're just moving things around. No one on the Dodgers is expected to start twice, and the ones who do have kind of rough matchups. Even Sean Manaea has the Guardians and then the Brewers. I was looking pretty hard at Max Fried, but I'm just worried about the injury risk there. Not major injury, but I'm worried I get a 3-inning start out of Max Fried because of a blister or a cut on his hand. I just want to see that he's past those issues because I don't want to because if he leaves a start early, you're done. You're going to lose the week.
Well, you're facing Coby Mayo, so maybe not.
Yeah, that's true. Some of the other ones Sonny Gray is getting the Dodgers and the Cubs. I'm not messing around with that. So I'm going to go. I thought I may have already used this guy, but I'm looking in the sheet and I have not. But I'm going to go with Jesus Luzardo, who gets the Orioles and the Rangers. So not fantastic matchups, but
interesting. For some reason, I thought you had used him too.
I thought I did too, but he's not in there.
Yeah, I don't see him in the sheet. Yeah, I don't know why I thought that. Maybe we considered him one time and then changed our mind or something. But I mean, not that I would have picked him.
Every other Phillies pitcher.
Yeah. He's the guy who could also blow up too. So this might be a pretty weak showing from us in this competition, but we'll see how it goes. So Coby Mayo against the Twins and Angels, Jesus Luzardo against the Orioles and Rangers. We'll go ahead and wrap things up there. Obviously, we're going to continue doing this show next year with the 2 of us. It's not going anywhere for the show and you. But just I want to thank the fans and listeners for being with us since February and Pitchers and Catchers Reported. We've been doing this every week, and it's a real blast. I continue to be very grateful and excited that they let me do some baseball stuff here because fantasy baseball was really my first love when I was first getting into this fun hobby. So, again, leading off is still going on. Obviously, the cycle is still continuing. It'll just be without me for a couple months. I want us to do some maybe check-ins in the off season as well, as opposed to waiting for February for me to be back on the baseball airwaves. But yeah, everybody enjoy Mayer and Kelly and enjoy Mayer's dulcet tones hosting this going forward.
At least one person chimed in that they really enjoy the sound of my voice, and that was very relaxing to them. So I appreciate that too. And also apologies for my alarm going off. That was my alarm to remember to pick up my son from the bus
stop. It's your alarm okay, Worm, wrap it up. All right, nobody cares. Get out of here. We're done.
Well, it's my son's first day of kindergarten, and I have to go pick him up at the bus stop. So a big day.
Congratulations on first day of kindergarten. You. Fun milestone.
Yeah. And make sure you hop in the comments and boo Worm for leaving the show.
Yeah. For Mayer and for Mayer's kindergarten son, I'm Ryan Wormeli. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time.